Hello and welcome to Reality Recapped, where I recap all of the trashiest reality shows. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and it's through that lens that I watch these shows and make my comments. Of course, I have not met with any of the people on this show, so everything that I state is simply an opinion. My channel is a little bit of education and a whole lot of snark. This episode is going to recap Sister Wives, Season 18, Episode 11, Airing the Dirty Laundry. The episode opens with Christine in her confessional. She tells us the conversation she had with Janelle last week about Janelle's relationship with Cody. They replay the clip of Janelle telling Christine she needs to have more of a companion. In her confessional, Christine says, on one hand, it would be really easy for Cody to fix his relationship with Janelle, but it's his relationship with her kids Janelle feels is the main problem. It's a much more complicated situation than mine was. So when I first heard this, I was like, what are you talking about? That's not accurate. He's had trouble with your kids too. But then I remember what she said actually was more specific. What she said was that Cody was really never around for her kids, and he wasn't close to her kids ever, but he was closer to Janelle's kids for a period of time. He was a more present and active father. I think a lot of that is because they were male, and I think he gave better treatment to the male kids. I think he saw them as more valuable than the girls, honestly. So when Cody severed that relationship, they were accustomed to a more demonstrative father, to a more engaged father, and so they lost more because they were treated better. So Janelle's kids are now feeling what the rest of the kids have felt this whole time. Cut to Salt Lake City, Utah, where Mykelti announces that she's pregnant with twins. Christine is very happy. Mykelti says she wasn't surprised, but Tony is taking it a bit harder. There's two blobs? Tony asks. We cut to Cody, who says he doesn't know where twins come from. Do you know where babies come from, Cody? He doesn't have twins on his side of the family, so it must be from Tony's side of the family. Tony says he is fine. It's just a lot. A lot of you are not going to agree with this, but I'm going to play a clip and just listen to the kind of music that they're playing.
Always wanted twins.
You have always wanted
I thought
twins.
Pablo was a twin for
Right?
a while,
I thought
so-
you were twins.
I like classical Spanish guitar. I think it's beautiful. It just feels a little bit like, why are you playing this when Tony's on screen? But there's this constant reminder of that you are different. They're putting music on that they never use on this show, and it's specific to his culture and who he is. And I'm not saying that there's a negative connotation with any of this. What I am saying is that he is seen as other. And we know that because they're using music that they don't normally use on this show when Tony is on screen. Tony tells us he feels A, stressed out, and B, taken aback. He tells us he doesn't have twins in his side of the family either, and then says he hopes both babies are his. Mykelti laughs and laughs. So we know the answer is maybe. Tony is so hard to like, isn't he? Christine says she isn't concerned about them having twins. They'll be fine with it. Christine watched Gabe and Gwen by herself together, and they were 4 days apart. You just figure it out. And they'll figure it out, and they'll be completely fine. I think the actuality of how hard parenting is, and mind you, I have not done it, but how isolating my friends have told me that it felt as new mothers, and then on top of it, not being able to sleep much, and instead of one baby, you have two. Yikes, they will figure it out, but it does sound like a lot. We cut to Parowan, Utah, to Meri at her B&B. She tells us not too long ago was her and Cody's 32nd anniversary. Meri says when they've gone out to celebrate in the last few years, it's felt more like an obligation than anything else. Cody didn't call or text Meri, and she waited until half the day had gone by before she decided to call him to wish him a happy anniversary and suggest they go for a drive or out to dinner. Cody told her, I'm watching the kids. Let me check with Robin. Then we cut to Cody in his confessional, and he says when Meri called him asking if we're going to do anything for her, our anniversary, I just said, well, I'm watching the kids. I need a minute to think. I need a reason to be able to say no in the event I just don't think it was the right thing for me to do. I think you mean you needed a break to ask Robin what you should do. And Robin decided that he had to take Meri out on their anniversary. Meri tells us he called her back later and said, okay, let's go out to dinner. So he came and got her, and while at dinner, he made a reference to faking relationships or something like that. You know, pretty typical anniversary bedroom talk. And I was like, what do you mean, faking? And he kind of gestured with his fingers between the two of us and said, well, this. I said, what do you mean? I'm not faking anything. He said, I don't know why you're even bothering to call and say happy anniversary, Meri. I'm like, 'cause it's our anniversary? And he's like, but we're not And then he paused. And then he said, but we're not living as a married couple. Meri says, I felt that in that moment, he stopped himself from saying, well, we're not married. And that was a big realization to me that all this time, all these years, that's how he's felt about it. But I haven't known that. We cut to Cody, who says, 7 years ago and near our 25th anniversary, Meri asked him to stop staying at her house. Counseling wasn't working. We were in an angry place with one another. It seemed like the love had been lost. Through counseling and recommendations of my other wives, Robin, right? I was convinced maybe I should try and fix it. Cody says it took a long time and he wanted to see if it would work, but it just didn't seem like it was gonna work. I felt I just had to give up. We cut to Meri, who says around that time, I did ask him to take a break, and he keeps coming back saying I kicked him out, but I never packed up his stuff. I didn't tell him to never come back. I didn't tell him that I didn't want to see him again. I never kicked him out. Meri says he actually said to me, I have no desire, Meri, to have a relationship with you. He says, you don't understand, Meri. This is never going to happen. Your life is not one that I want to insert myself into. I will never forget those words. This is the first time he's ever said this to me. That was very, very painful for me, and I felt my heart speeding up. But you promised, you know? Cody definitely could have picked a better time and a better opportunity, but sometimes when people are breaking up with you, they give you little gifts. So as painful as it was, Meri's not going to walk away from this conversation wondering anymore. So as much as I don't agree with how Cody is treating her, especially on her anniversary, he is releasing her in a way that he's not even aware of. We cut to Salt Lake City, Utah. Mykelti is told that she's going to have to go to a hospital to have the twins. The midwives say they won't assist her birth because of the increased risk with having twins. So she's chosen Dr. Bean as her OBGYN since he gave birth to Truly. Christine looks at Mykelti and says, he didn't give birth to Truly. He helped deliver Truly. Christine tells us, Tony did not like the home birth last time. It was too intense for him. He's relieved to have the children in the hospital. They show old clips of Truly being born, and then of Robin having a baby at a home birth, and then of Savannah and Brianna outside the bedroom door when Maddie delivered Axel. It's sad to see the image of these two girls and know that they don't even talk to one another when they see each other at school. Christine says she highly recommends home births with a good experienced midwife. The recovery is amazing, she says. You get to just stay home. It's fantastic. You're in your own home, in your own bed, and it's so nice. As a polygamous culture, you mostly have home births, especially if it's a plural wife. In some cases, they don't put the husband's name down on anything, and you don't want the hospitals to find out that you're a plural family because they can come and take your kids away. There's a whole big fear mentality about hospitals in the polygamous culture. So because of that, my kids have a little bit of fear associated with the hospitals still. We cut to Janelle, who says they have very different perspectives on hospitals and the medical system. Janelle wasn't raised in the faith. Her family aren't polygamous. So Cody put his name on all of her children's birth certificates. It's not something I ever thought about because I didn't grow up with that fear. Back at Christine's house, Mykelti says, I don't want all the nurses or the IV. Christine is like, yeah, I know, but it'll be fine. In her confessional, Christine says that Mykelti is super close to Robin and super close to me, and it puts a lot of pressure on Mykelti. We cut to Robin's house. They're celebrating Truly's 12th birthday, so they're going to have a little birthday celebration for her. Isabel's there too. Robin says it's the last year before she turns into a teenager, and then she makes this face. It's always so scary, she says. Robin says it's nice to have a family experience and a party. I miss this. I miss this. She knows it's not all of us, but it's a bit of us, and that's something, you know? I always want Truly to feel safe and comfortable in my home. I want any of the kids to feel safe and comfortable in my home, and it seems like they're having a good time. And then we cut to another delivery scene. Look, I get it. Childbirth, it's beautiful, but it's just extra childbirth-y in this episode. This is the second time we've seen Truly come out, and there were 3 other births we've watched in this episode so far, and it's like 18 minutes in. So maybe if you're not a medical show or a show about births or medical procedures, can we just gloss over these scenes a bit more? Again, love life, love babies. But I started watching this show because it was about polygamy, and it isn't anymore. And I'll hang in there, hey. But if you turn this into a medical show, I am out. Even if TLC teases Cody performing his first C-section in the next season's trailer, I'm out. Robin says, right after Truly was born, we got married. And Robin really likes the fact that Truly doesn't have any memories without Robin and her kids being a part of it. We cut to Cody, who says one thing he's constantly concerned about is this gloomy cloud hanging over most of us most of the time. Because, you know, with the divorce, there seems to be an undertone of a sort of strain, like, do I trust? Can I trust? Truly seems perfectly fine. Isabel seems to be uncomfortable a lot of the time.
For now, everybody gets a half a piece, because we only brought 6.
You only have 6 pieces of chicken for 9 people. Clearly, they were not planning on having this birthday party. This is something they threw together last minute. Last minute is better than nothing at all. But still, like, Truly's birthday coincides with Robin's anniversary. And I guarantee you, Robin got a much nicer anniversary than Meri did. She didn't get dumped, at least, on her anniversary. So there's like a holiday that's right next to it that they can use to remind them of the kids. And Isabel kind of like wakes up when they say that. And she's like, oh, okay, this was last minute. Also, I didn't see any wrapping paper. I didn't see Truly opening up a present. And I didn't see any gifts. So what the heck? We cut to Isabel in her confessional, and she says, my relationship with my dad, it's never like 100% solid. And so with the divorce right now, everything is rocky. Christine tells us that Isabel lives in North Carolina with Maddie and Caleb. She has a job, and she's just living for her. I remember her moving out there, and she was going to go to junior college, and I thought her job was going to be taking care of Maddie and Caleb's kids as a way to help out while she lived there for free. And I wonder what ended up happening to those plans. We cut to Cody, who says there's a lot of pain from divorce and the separation of family. And as a result, there's just what seems to be like a mild strain. A mild strain? You're not speaking to most of your children and many of your wives. I wouldn't call that mild. Cody continues, my phone calls are pretty weak. I think we're just processing through some stuff. Cody says based on his goals that he had for his life, this situation is very, very disappointing. Cody responds to what is happening around him as if he isn't the catalyst for why the divorce happened. He behaves as if a hurricane just came through and disrupted everything. Cody continues, my goal from the beginning was that my family would be under one roof. They cut back to the one large home that Cody says he wanted. Cody says, I wonder if part of his fault in the plural marriage was that he just expected too much from the family with this one family idea. What we're hearing here is kind of Cody just saying outlandish things that we're like, what are you talking about? This doesn't make any sense. And what I think is happening is he's trying to protect himself. He doesn't want to admit his fault in any of this. His ego's too fragile for that. So he's making up all these reasons. It's, it was that Christine was too needy, and that was the problem for a while. And then it became that no one respected him, and no one respected his COVID rules or him as the leader, and it needed to be patriarchal, and that wasn't working. Nobody was falling in line, and that's why it didn't work. And then it turned into, well, polygamy is not a great idea. It's not something we should be doing. And then it turned into, well, we should have been in one house. And if we had been in one house, we'd be more of one family. The factor that he's not bringing into the equation, which shouldn't surprise any of us because he rarely has the ability to kind of look at his part in things, is that anytime you're in a group setting, treating part of the group or members of the group in a very different way will completely destroy the solidarity within that group. It's basic human nature 101. I'm not going to be close to you if I'm seeing you're getting more resources than I am, and unfairly so. You and I are not going to be brothers and sisters in this. We're going to be competing for resources. We're going to be competing for time. We're going to be competing for attention. So he never acknowledges that sliver. And honestly, I think if Cody could have managed his own behavior so that even though he still would have those really strong feelings of love toward Robin and wanting to treat her better than everybody else and spending more time with her, if he had been able to manage his own behavior so that everything looked more fair, I don't think it would have imploded in this way. Now, again, Cody, that is separate from the fact that Cody is a narcissist and Robin's covert, and that is separate from all the other stuff. But just that piece alone has the potential to destroy any relationships, any group structures. Cody continues, we might have been more successful had we been in different homes. And now I'm like, but Cody, you were in different homes. You were all together before Robin came in. And then Robin came in, and then you never, ever went back to one home. Clearly, Cody is just deflecting, and that's why it feels confusing. Because what he's saying doesn't make sense based on the reality that they lived. It's gobbledygook, right? I've said this before. He's just spouting gobbledygook, and this is more gobbledygook. And so to spend any more time kind of hashing through what he's saying is the reason, while he's so self-protective and not really owning his part in it, it's kind of like a waste of time. But I guess he's got to sit in this chair and he's got to say something. He's got to blame something. So, okay, it's the housing that's the problem now, apparently. And then they go back to the family mission statement. Cody says, we just shredded that mission statement. What has happened with our family is very sad to me. It's just one of those things that's happened. I have to move on. But there is sort of this strange place that I'm in where it feels odd to sort of have been, and then he trails off. I'm trying to redefine my life. Do you remember that this mission statement, it took 1.5 years for them to actually write it? And I remember Christine was the most vocal about getting that thing done. And she kept bringing it up and was kind of harassing everybody else. Like, we need to get this done. We need to get on the same page. And then they had this commitment ceremony. And I think in this moment, he's forgetting that earlier in this season, he admitted that he just stopped trying. Like he was like, I just stopped trying. I decided I was done and nobody else picked up the slack. And so now the family is in ruins. Now we cut back to the birthday party. Robin asks Isabel if she's going to church. Isabel says she went once and she liked it, but hasn't had a chance to go again. But she tells Robin she wants to. Then we cut to Cody, who tells us he isn't affiliated with a church in Flagstaff. We haven't established any connection religiously in Flagstaff. If he was in Utah, he'd be too embarrassed to show his face at church because of the struggles that the family has had. I find it very hypocritical that Robin is asking Isabel if she's going to church or not, and if she's affiliated with any church. And that's her focus. Meanwhile, she's not affiliated with a church. Her husband isn't affiliated with a church. So it's like, you're worried about her being right with God, but you're not following what you think she should. I just think it's an overstep. And honestly, if you don't have a great relationship with somebody, I don't think bringing in their spiritual beliefs is a great place to start. Maybe build your relationship back up before you bring up things that are so intimate. But I think it does share Robin's opinion that she's kind of a superior being to these other people. And these people need to go to church. Robin doesn't need to go to church. Then we cut to this purity speech that Robin gave the teenagers when she first came into the family. Robin says, "When you give your purity to your husband or your wife after you've been married, then you will have a lot of happiness and a lot of blessings." And then they cut to Meri, who did all of those things and is holding Robin's youngest child in her arms. And that didn't work out for her, did it? Then we cut to Cody, who tells us right after he doesn't go to church that he's always been a man of faith. But he struggled for a long time because he's a polygamist. Yep, that's the issue, polygamy. Cody continues, "I'm not a fit in my old religion, and we're in limbo." Then they cut to Maddie and Caleb's wedding. What is up with this old clip episode? Man, they just keep throwing them at us, and it isn't someone giving birth, so I'm going to allow it. They play kind of scary music in the background as Cody announces them husband and wife. Then we cut to Cody in a confessional, and we hear the producer ask Cody if he's heard from Maddie at all.
I do not know what happened, but during the breakup with Christine, Maddie stopped reaching out to me. Might have been COVID, or I have no idea what was going on, but she quit reaching out to me.
We really need to get Cody a phone that can dial out. Does he need help putting in the contacts? Because I'll do it. I'll go up to Flagstaff and enter in the contact information for all of his kids. And hey, while I'm at it, I'll add their birthdays in too. And then he'll have a great relationship once again. This is just so sad because it's so unnecessary. And I don't want to gloss over what he's talking about because his whole life was built from a religious perspective. Everything that he did was based on what he was taught about how he was supposed to live his life. And to lose that, you're essentially becoming rudderless, right? You're trying to figure out, what do you believe now? Because that didn't work out so well. So I don't want to gloss over what he's going through because it is very significant. And just because he's been treating people horribly doesn't mean he doesn't also have his own stuff that he's going through. Could he have handled all of this 100% better and not created so many fractures? Absolutely. But if anyone has ever had like kind of a situation where you had a very transformative shift in your belief system, it really does shake everything, especially if you thought you were superior to other people based on your belief systems. So I do want to add in a little bit of softness for Cody around how difficult it is to manage that. Again, he could still manage these relationships in a much more productive way that isn't going to create more heartache for everybody. But he's just blowing it all up. He doesn't understand that you can rebuild yourself and not blow everything up in the process. Now we cut to Janelle, who says Maddie doesn't call him because of his behavior lately. She's like, I don't know what to do with him. I don't know who this guy is. So she has to consider her children. She has to consider the stability of what they see or perceive as a grandfather. There's a lot of things at play here. It's not just Maddie not calling him. This makes me really wonder. I just think there's a lot of information that we're not being told. Because to keep your children away from your father, there has to be a lot going on there, right? That's not an easy decision. And I don't think Maddie would make that decision lightly. I think maybe there are more serious things that are going on behind the scenes that we are not privy to. Then we cut to Robin, who is telling us how much her children have missed their siblings. And there seems to be this weird wall, she says, that I can't penetrate, and we can't quite figure out why it's there. As a viewer, what I'm feeling is a lot of frustration because to me, it feels so clear that Robin is creating all of this distance, and she's doing things that are destroying the relationships between the siblings. So for the kids to be in this situation that actually want to have a relationship with Robin's kids, I can't imagine how to navigate that without feeling like you're losing your mind a little bit. So though it sucks that there's such a divide, it might actually be healthier for these kids to be away from this. And then we cut to Cody, and Cody's affect is he's smiling like he's talking about a fun day, but the words that are coming out of his mouth literally are, "It feels to me like a broken family," but he's saying like, "It feels to me like a broken family. I can't fix it." Yeah, you can. But you'd have to own your part, and you'd rather pretend to not understand what's happening than ever take ownership of how you imploded everything. My own optimism or something just wants me to say, well, it's meant to be this way now. That is laziness, sir, or lack of accountability, Cody. That isn't optimism, you mean man. Cody continues, these people that are here together can work out the relationship. It's time. And they can work out the relationship with me. And it's complicated. The relationship doesn't end in my family, but something about it has ended. And it's an ending. And that's sort of sad. Sort of sad? It's really sad and unnecessary and ridiculous and irritating and pathetic. We cut to Janelle and Gabe at Garrison's backyard. They put in a planter garden for her birthday in Garrison's backyard, which is so frickin' sweet. Janelle says she's in an apartment, and so they built her a little garden. It's a sanity thing for her, she says. It just makes her feel less stressed when she's doing it. We cut to her confessional. Janelle tells us it's been a month since her birthday date with Cody, and they haven't talked. I don't think he even really thinks about me very much, to be honest with you. He's got a whole life going on over at Robin's house. We're friendly when we have to be, but there's no connection, really. Gabe tells Janelle Gwen isn't going to move in after all. Janelle says it probably would have been hard to live with her brothers. In her confessional, Janelle tells us her kids haven't talked to their dad, and they generally ignore him. What's the point of having a conversation with him, they ask. They play the clip where Gabe mentions that his dad said he only cares about his younger children. We cut to Cody, who says, what I said to Gabriel, once you're out of graduated from high school, my obligation to you shifts. It's an obligation of mutual respect. If the relationship goes bad, then it's like, go get your own place, which would be a great argument if Cody didn't have 2 adult children, Dayton and Aurora, living with he and Robin. The thing is, you can't treat everyone differently and then wonder why some kids feel slighted, because you're actually slighting them. Cody continues, you don't belong in my home if you can't respect me. Remember, it's my home, not yours. Well, actually, it was Janelle's home. Remember her, your wife, their mother. She's not letting you push anyone out, and rightfully so. We cut to Janelle, who says, I think Cody is getting exactly what he puts into the relationship. Janelle says she hasn't really seen Robin or Meri since the angry porch conversation about a year ago. Robin and I never really had a close relationship. We were great team players, but I never connected to her on a friend level. She was 10 years younger than me, and our kids were younger than mine. We just didn't even like the same things. We weren't similar, but we could be great team players for the sake of the family. Well, one of you could be a great team player for the sake of the family, and one of you is a snake in the grass looking out for herself and her kids at the expense of everyone else. So then Janelle goes on to Meri. Meri and I have always had personality differences, and that's okay. But I don't need to really seek her out now. I still have family with Christine. We still see each other, and the kids are interacting. It feels very normal when we're together, without all the drama. Right now, I feel like that's my family. Janelle tells us she just loves gardening. You plant something, you water it, you watch it grow. It just brings my stress level down 15 notches, you know? At some point, I want to put some greenhouses on the property and run a small operation. That's kind of my second generation of my life, or the second part of my life or something. I would love to be engaged full-time in the growing of plants. At this point, I'd be really happy if we can just pay off the property because I'm just getting crickets and the runaround. We cut to Cody, who says, we're going to get the property paid off. Janelle sits and pesters me about it all the time. She's asking, but not really helping. Janelle says, the clock is ticking. The loan comes due in a year. I could be mistaken, but didn't they say it was going to come due in a year last season? So if that's correct, shouldn't the deadline be like months away? Janelle continues, I hope they're not stupid enough to let it slip away. After all, we've put so much money into it. Cody in his confessional says Robin and I still intend to build there. For you guys or for Robin's children? And notice he doesn't mention anyone else being out on the property there, even though their money helped buy those plots. Janelle says anything is possible at this point, but I don't recognize these people I used to be in a family with, as far as their priorities and thought processes. And now we cut to Salt Lake City, Utah. Truly is learning to ride a bike. We all remember the disastrous time she had learning at Cody's side.
There's no crying in baseball, sweetheart.
This isn't baseball.
This is bike riding. It's easier than baseball.
There's a lot of different parenting styles, and there is a school of thought that the world is a very hard place. So the harder you are on your children, the easier they're going to have it when they get out in the world. I have a very different philosophy, but I should also mention I don't have kids, right? So it's a pretty easy philosophy to live by when you don't have children that are out in the real world. My philosophy is you create an environment that's very safe for the children, and you let them know, hey, the world is difficult. The world is hard, but you have a safe spot here. It's not a space that enables you, but it's a safe space where if you're crying and you're telling me you're upset, I'm going to stop what we're doing and I'm going to talk to you about it. And we're going to slow things down and we're going to do things at a pace that works for you. Truly is now 12 and still has not learned how to ride a bike. So this idea that you can push your children and force them into doing things that they're afraid of, maybe that works in some cases with some kids, but in Truly's case, I think it's to her detriment to treat her in that way. She's lucky because Christine understands that, and Christine is not going to push her in the same way as we see in this clip of Truly learning to ride a bike modern day. In his confessional, Cody says, I know she didn't really enjoy that time, and to be quite honest, I didn't enjoy that time with her either. And we know this was harder on Truly because she's telling her siblings, like, I'm feeling like crying right now, like emotional right now, because she has an association with learning how to ride a bike with being yelled at by her parent and not supported. Christine says she brought up that she's almost 12. I think you riding a bike would be, a good thing. Christine says Truly has a really great support system here. It's everything that I wanted for her to have. She's surrounded with people who love her and want to spend time with her all of the time. Truly gives a bike a go, and when she's had enough, they stop. No one is yelling about baseball and not crying, and they all tell her good job. In her confessional, Christine tells us she thought Truly would ride that day, but she'll get it. She'll learn how to ride the bike. It's more about having the support, and she has that here. Totally agree. Christine is having to fix bad parenting 4 years later, is basically what's happening now with this. And if you put yourself in the position of needing to learn something new, adding stress and yelling at somebody and feeling afraid when you're trying to learn something makes it really impossible to learn something. So you're not helping your kid by adding pressure to them. That's not what facilitates learning. What facilitates learning is feeling like you can make mistakes, you can mess up, you can fall over, and no one's going to laugh at you. They're supporting you, they're encouraging you, and you're allowed to set your pace while you're learning, especially if it's something physical like bike riding. Now we cut to Meri in Parawan, and she's still talking about her 32nd anniversary. He actually said to me, I have no desire to have a relationship with you. Early in our marriage, I had a lot of doubt, like, are you always going to love me? Kind of emotions. And he used to be very good at reassuring me. I thought that our commitment and love would mean something to him. I told him that's bull. Ask anyone who knew us, who was around us. He loved me. He's just saying that now to justify how he feels now. In our religion, we marry with the intention of forever. Literally, an eternal covenant. I feel like now he's saying he's just not interested, but hey, you can stick around if you want. But why would I do that eternally? Be with somebody who really has just changed his mind about me. In her confessional, Meri says she's felt like she's always had a pretty good relationship with Robin, and I love her kids. I still want to keep a relationship with those kids as long as she and Cody will let me. So Meri returns to her story about Cody saying that he doesn't love her anymore and he doesn't want to be in a relationship with her anymore. And she says, well, since we're public, why don't we talk about this and be open about this? If our relationship is over, we need to tell the general public. And Cody said, I get so much criticism already. I don't really want to disclose this. In her confessional, Meri says, I'm not going to go the rest of my life hiding our marriage is over.
This is my story too. And I have the right to tell my story.
Yes, Meri. And that is such a powerful statement. Meri says, I have the right to tell my story. Basically, I see two options for my life. I can continue living the way that I have been for 8 years and being like this badass, independent bitch, or I can terminate it. And terminating it doesn't sit well with her values because I didn't marry Cody to just be like, it's not working for us. I think I'll peace out. And right now she says she doesn't know what to do about it, which again breaks my heart. She's getting closer. She's baby stepping. Hopefully she's going to be leaving soon. I'm very much looking forward to that scene where they're out on the land and she's like, I'm out of here. See you guys later. And that's it for this week, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please take a moment to like it. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please take a minute to do so. Remember, it doesn't cost you a thing and it makes a huge difference on my end. And until next time, have a wonderful week. Goodbye.